Hey, everybody, welcome to the Home Care Forum podcast with your hosts, Sasha, Guillaume, and Amina, Poricanin. We're going to jump to the larger economy, which is on everybody's minds. And yes, it does affect home care. The Dow Jones is down 4,000 points since the beginning of the month and 6,500 points from this year's high. The last recession, we spoke about it, it was a boon for home care, I thought. And this is a service that historically has been recession-proof. If you look at the Bush recession, for example, we saw many people who would not have considered home care as a viable option for employment. So workforce shortage issues, especially with English speakers, was not a thing. The recession was navigated, however, by a Democratic-led House, Senate, and executive. A party that, right or wrong, is historically known for supporting and investing in social safety nets. Now, we have an administration that is actively dismantling the social safety nets in all of government, it seems. So what happened then can't be expected to play out this time, right? So now we have the following actions that are pending, right? Medicaid funding cuts, which would be disastrous for New York. Penalization of states like New York for supporting undocumented workers with Medicaid coverage. Reduction of the MCO tax potentially, which would see less monies coming into the coffers of New York State and therefore impacting the services that we can provide as a state. Here again, seems like the MCO lobby is powerful both in New York, where they deflected $250 million in savings that was sought from Medicaid to the providers. Now they seem to have succeeded somewhat at the federal level to cut the taxes to the MCOs. Finally, we're looking at reductions to FMAP, federal Medicaid contribution to the state. All bode badly for home care. Emina, what's your take?
Well, I have a different perspective because we service employers and companies across all sectors, right? Some of them are not as recession-proof as perhaps home care, which is predominantly government funded. Schools, government offices, healthcare have traditionally been recession-proof. And I do think that there's a lot of opportunity for home care providers, our listeners, to capitalize on the otherwise downward spiral of the general economy. This, as you said, with this president and this administration being such outliers to what we traditionally come to expect from a Republican-backed president, I can't say that schools, healthcare, and government are safe, right? There's all of these mass layoffs happening under the leadership of Elon Musk to federal employees. And I do think some cuts there are necessary. Is it necessary in the numbers that we've seen? I'm not sure. But I am extremely worried that this will not be another recession that's good for home care. We're speaking and recording this Monday. The stock market lost, I think it was 3 trillion by Friday. My stock certainly fell. I don't know that anybody was immune from it. I do think we're going to start seeing some of that affect how businesses, home care included, make decisions about their overall operations. And then a lot of home care business owners have other ventures. They're not strictly focused on healthcare, right? They've gone into other spaces that may have even more of an impact from what's happening in the greater market than home care. So that's my perspective. I've been speaking a lot with clients about how to respond to what seems to be a recession. So far, everybody's talking about a 1 to 2 year period, a downturn in the overall economy. I think the general consumer spending will go down. What we have seen from other recessions is that people may be more open to taking second or third jobs to supplement their income, their primary income, and in order to maintain the lifestyle that they have grown accustomed to. It will be very interesting for me to see, as I have a psychology background, is whether this generation of workers that we always complain about, whether they're going to step up and actually start working. Because we're always talking about how lazy this new generation of workers is, how entitled they are. They've never had to fight for anything. Are they going to fight to keep their, I don't know, BMW lease, right? Are they going to get a second job if they want to upgrade their vehicle? Because all these things are going to start costing more thanks to the tariffs that were implemented last week as well. So I'm interested to see that. But talking about the workforce, there is an opportunity for home care agencies to capitalize on what's becoming a recession, ramping up their recruitment efforts, putting the agency name out there, and being that home care agency of choice if someone is looking for a second job.
You know what's interesting in that hot take on this new generation is that there have been some research that shows the opposite, that they can't even buy a home. Like that's the level of stress they're under and the economic situation that they find themselves in, right? Their debt's higher, their opportunities are less. But the ones who are making it on their side hustles, right? Which is, to us, it might seem, is it really work that you are on YouTube or on TikTok and dancing? But they're making significant amounts of money, right? So there is this hustle culture, this gig economy thing that they're doing. Maybe I didn't understand it necessarily because I felt similar to at some point. But yeah, I mean, I think they might not step up and take these jobs, but I think they will be doing things to entertain the people who are at home and not working. Will they take advantage of AI? It's right up their alley. They should be the ones who are leading that effort, and they potentially could see a lot of benefit to that. So I'm not counting them out. I'm rooting for them. I hope they help our economy roar back.
Such a nice positive view. I, as I told you before we signed on, I'm in a foul mood today.
Okay,
And
that's fine.
as far as the point about them not being able to buy a house, I blame them for this. There has been a number of jobs and vacancies, and that has definitely caused a lot of employers in the US to look overseas and bring in all of these highly qualified workers to do well-paying jobs because people in the US don't want to do them or don't even want to bother applying for them, or because they think they're too good to do entry-level work. I started entry level, right? And then climbed my way up. This generation, and I talk to workers and I talk to their bosses all the time. They all expect to come in at the highest level of the salary, but then when they actually get a job, they don't even want to do what's required to keep the salary that they're getting. So I guess I tend to disagree with you there about the reasons why they haven't bought a house. It is certainly not because the opportunities have not been there for them. There is also this shift about what is the point of owning a house? Why has America traditionally made that their biggest asset? There's all of these Instagram influencers who are saying, don't put your money there. Put it in the stock market because it's going to grow better than a home, right? The boomers had it wrong by investing and putting their house as the biggest asset. So that could be another reason why they haven't bought the house. Just responding to that point. Okay, let's move on to New York State, as if we're not sick of talking about CDPAP, right? I mean, why don't you kick it off? What are you dealing with today as a business owner with a solely agency dedicated to fiscal intermediary services? Our listeners know you also have Alexa, but your FI is a standalone company, and your FI actually was and maybe still is involved in a lawsuit against New York State regarding the state's closure of independent FIs.
Yeah, the lawsuit is moving forward. I think we're on our last legs. The TRO seems to have given the attorneys some wind at their backs. They think that they can piggyback on some of the arguments there. They've dropped some of the points in the lawsuit. I'm trying to speak about it without saying too much. But I think they're going to keep pushing as long as this TRO keeps extending. As a business owner, where our kind of FI, we're moving in the direction of closing shop. Now we don't really know what to do, right? For example, workers' comp. We stopped working on the 31st. We don't need workers' comp insurance. this TRO and these individual authorizations here and there from a plan saying, "Oh, keep going with this case," or but nothing else. That workers' comp premium, unless I had a PayGo set up with NYSIF, which has PayGo, I'm paying a monthly premium. I'm paying the full month premium, which maybe would be audited and reimbursed later. But I'm not collecting anywhere near what I need to collect for to cover that premium. So that's one thing that just wasn't I didn't even consider because I thought that was a hard end date, the way things were going. So and then you have general liability. I need to carry a tail insurance. Right? There are some insurances where even though the claim of an event that occurred within the coverage period, if the claim is filed outside the claim period, some insurances are saying it's not covered. So you do need to carry a tail, which I need to go back and read the fine print because that seems not to make sense. If you had coverage during that period, it should be covered. So I might be sending you some documents, Amina, to look at. But it's a tough call. We've moved some of our employees into our Elixir. We've done some shifts in staffing and roles, and we have been involved in converting not only our CDPAP, the PAs into PCA, but we've done that for some other agencies as well. So we're keep moving in that direction. I think there's opportunities post April 1st where there are going to be people who are going to be moving and taking advantage of the ACD classes for some time to come because people are experiencing the PPL debacle, the chaos, and they're looking for an exit. And that exit is a PCA Elixir. And we're here if you need us.
So in no particular order, as far as the state is concerned, the budget obviously was due on April 1. Hochul is saying she's in no rush to finish it. We don't have it. An extender was granted, but we don't know actually when they're going to finalize everything. There's no indication from the state, either the houses or Hochul herself, that the CDPAP issue will be addressed in the budget. It seems that the state is intent on going forward with PPL despite a very, very disastrous rollout past April 1. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the current challenges as we record this today, what they are. But, that budget will be finalized at some point, and we don't anticipate that there will be a reversal of the single statewide FI. A number of consumers have already transitioned the last few days, as tumultuous as they have been with the federal judge, have yielded a number of people transitioning over to PPL. And so the state, even if they wanted to, can't just easily roll that back. And so that I do think is going to go forward. Now, a lot of the folks who do have fiscal intermediary operations have been calling for the resignation of Hochul. I don't know if she'll actually respond. She has a pretty good opinion of herself, and she has good fundraising abilities and skills. And so I do anticipate that she will run again. I don't think she's going to buckle under this pressure. Interestingly, the state has filed with CMS a request approval of the New York State Medicaid plan. They filed that last week. So after the PPL transition officially took effect, they didn't ask for permission. They asked for forgiveness, basically, right? And over the weekend, Kennedy tweeted, I'm so glad these high-ranking government officials tweet their opinions to us, that they will take a 90-day review of New York State's proposed Medicaid plan. It is not clear to me that the PPL transition has to be put on hold pending this 90 days. That was certainly the call that had been made to CMS and Health and Human Services, that they get involved and pressure the New York State officials to put the transition with PPL on hold pending CMS approval. I don't think that's what is happening. I certainly would have heard about it today, but it looks like the transition is happening, and it is unlikely that CMS would disapprove of this type of a change in the program. One thing that's interesting from the state's CMS write-up, what changes are happening, is that this consolidation to PPL would only save the state $34 million. Now, Sasha, what happened to that? What was it? 9 billion or 2 billion in savings? It was $1 billion. It wasn't a million number. I can't believe that all of this is happening over 34 million. I mean, they've given out much, much more than that in KeyVAP dollars without any accountability whatsoever. And yet they've shut down 600 plus businesses over $34 million in savings. Are you kidding me?
I guess I'd like to see how much in taxes were coming in from the multitude of agencies in comparison, or is that considered in this 34 million? This is actually the first time I'm hearing of this. I have been traveling. I'm in Costa Rica looking into some businesses I have here. So in travels, maybe I missed that, but that is an absurdly low, right? The first number was 250 million that they were after, then this 9 billion in contracts and saving X billion over time. No, I mean, that should be pendant that she has to wear around her neck for years into her election bid. Let's not give her the governorship again.
So let me clarify some numbers. OH estimates the federal budget impact will be a savings of 31 million in the first year and 35 million in the second from this transition to PPL. Was it really worth it? They've also doled out, I believe the number was 60 something million to Centers for Independent Living to get them equipped to be whatever, supporters of PPL. Where in God's name are these savings? I don't understand this.
No, look, it doesn't make sense. And unfortunately, I don't think there's a reversal here. Right? The damage, if by a miracle something happened, then you're just throwing these patients up in the air and it's a free for all. The quickest to get to them or do they go back where they were prior? It's quite upsetting. It's not worth it at all. And a lot of people are being hurt at the absolute wrong time, where the economy is tanking and people were terminated not because of the economy, but because of this. There's a wave of people who were terminated because of this economy, and where they could have possibly gotten another job. Now there's nothing there for them to look at, right? And again, this would have been one of those industries that could have survived this, would have given those people another place to go, or new opportunities for people who have lost their jobs in other industries. So good luck, everyone. It's not a laughing matter. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but I laugh in these dark times. That's all we can do sometimes.
Well, right. I mean, your emotions are so raw. You're either gonna cry or laugh, like just out of pure sheer panic.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up today's podcast episode, most of you have heard that there was a follow-up hearing on the TRO that was filed in support of consumers and personal assistants who were not able to switch and who were at risk of losing services and compensation. The federal judge hearing the case, he's a senior judge, Judge Block, was presented with a draft order on Friday that would have clarified his prior TRO. He refused to sign it, and he was a bit more obliging to New York State and the Attorney General attorneys who were there arguing on behalf of the Department of Health. The state has until the 14th to fully debrief the issue. I expect that if the state provides additional assurances that consumers are being taken care of and that PAs are able to get paid under PPL, that probably the entire TRO will go away. As it stands today, the TRO he issued on March 31st and that he clarified on April 2nd is on the books. It doesn't provide much relief, okay? His clarification of the March 31st order is that all PAs who are working must be paid. Duh. But his order is also that all consumers receiving services from FIs that operated before April 1 can continue receiving those services if the consumers are not registered. He did not define what registered with PPL means. And so providers are still in this limbo where they don't know who's registered, who isn't. They don't know if the plans will reimburse them. And the plans have, under a somewhat defiant guidance from the Department of Health, the plans have said, look, we're not paying you. We're not going to reissue authorizations and reinstate this patient and this member with you for what, possibly 4 or 5 days. We don't know. So, and some providers are kind of stuck because they had hoped that this litigation would resolve in their favor. They have allowed caregivers to continue clocking in for a few more days, and now they're not going to get reimbursed for these days of service after April 1. We've been speaking a lot with clients about what to do with this situation, but there's just a lot of confusion. But to be clear, the consumers who did get registered, and you can check their registration with the MLTC, if they're registered, there is no basis under this TRO for you to service them as a prior FI. Okay. If the MLTC is telling you they are registered, the TRO does not apply to them. Okay. It is only those consumers who are arguably not registered and unable to receive services through PPL. There's all these consumers who are supposedly registered but don't have a single PA registered, or who are not able to have their PA sign in because of different technical issues with PPL. Does that mean you as a prior FI can service them? The answer is no. There's no assurance that you're going to get paid. Just because they cannot log in or their PA didn't register with PPL does not mean you are going to get paid. At the end of the day, my suggestion to my clients has been get something in writing from the MLTC that they will pay you for each particular consumer. And only then will you have some basis to claim payment. And even then, you're probably going to have to argue with the MLTC. So,
yeah, agreed. I mean, I think VNS is the only MLTC that I saw that put something in writing, gave you a worksheet, and then everybody else that we called said, no, we're not paying you. They didn't go to PPL. So I'm glad we made the call to suspend all or end all services, because I don't want to deal with chasing somebody down for a small amount. And then again, as I stated, the bigger issue for me was the workers' comp. That's a big number, and to carry that and not be reimbursed to cover it doesn't make sense. So that's it. We're sitting and waiting, but I think that ship has sailed.
So before we conclude, just a couple of housekeeping announcements. There is a series of New York State Department of Health lunch and learns that they're hosting. The next one is on April 29th, and they'll be talking about FAQs on TB. Look, as all of you are transitioning to LIXAs, or you're trying to get a LIXA and put some sort of a management agreement in place, right? I've seen all of those very creative structures. It is even more important to be compliant with your LIXA obligations. So I do suggest that you attend these lunch and learns that are being hosted for free by the Department of Health.
All right, thanks for that, Amina, and thank you all for listening. This has been the Home Care Forum podcast with your hosts, Sasha Guillaume and Emina Poricanin. Have a good one.